Hi, my name is Nila, and I'm going to talk about where companies go wrong. Companies spend billions of dollars every year marketing directly to potential customers and retaining relationships with existing ones. However, using acquisition and retention rates as measures of overall performance is highly problematic. Why? One reason is because the cost of acquiring or retaining a customer outweighs the revenues he or she brings. According to marketers, we can divide the customers into four segments. Customers who are easy to acquire and easy to retain, customers who are difficult to acquire but easy to retain, customers who are easy to acquire but hard to retain, and finally, customers who are both difficult to acquire and to retain. The largest profit contribution came from the smallest group, which is the customers who are expensive to acquire but cheap to retain, and they are only 15% of the population but accounts for 40% of the profit. Another mistake that the companies do is treating acquisition and retention as independent activities and trying to maximize both rates. A selection bias is an error in the research method, where researchers use a sample that is not truly representing the whole population. Therefore, it can mislead information or conclusion. Most importantly, it can cause analysts to incorrectly predict the impact of marketing activities or consumer behavior.
I'm going to talk about allocating resources for profits. To truly manage direct marketing for profits, marketers need an approach that gets around selection bias so that they can uncover the true relationship between customer behavior and long-term profits. In the article, they talk about an approach called the RPRO model. It stands for Allocating Resources for Profits. RPRO is essentially a regression analysis in which long-term profitability relates to the amount the company spends on each customer and other factors on customer behavior. But the challenge on setting up the model is to identify the factors correctly and accurately with regards to each of their individual weights in the model's equation. So, the more accurate and available is the information, the better will the prediction be. Some factors can be directly observed and are easier to control, such as the average amount spent on acquiring customers or on retaining them. The article also says that the average duration of a customer's relationship with the company is partly a function of the amount spent on retention efforts. Once all the elements that make up these factors are properly estimated with their corresponding weight, managers can then manipulate the model by plugging in different amounts for the factors they control to see which values result in more optimal customer profitability.
According to the article, all three companies demonstrate that even small deviations from the optimal level of consumer profitability are expensive. The fact that maximizing the likelihood of acquiring or retaining an individual consumer is not the same as maximizing overall consumer profitability. Okay.
Yeah.
However, if spending too much on marketing is bad, spending too little on customer retention is worse. Finding the optimum balance between investments in acquisition and retention can be more important than finding the optimum amount to invest overall. The article found that average consumer profitability would be maximized if the B2B firm allocated 80% of the communication efforts by volume to email, 11% to phone, 7% to web-based interactions, and 2% to face-to-face contacts. The article's model incorporates profitability into marketing mix decisions, revealing how much companies must spend on direct marketing to maximize profitability and how they should most profitably allocate that spending, not only in terms of acquisition and relationship management efforts, but even down to a level of choices between various direct communication channels.
Thanks for watching and stay tuned for our next vlog.